Hello students, welcome to this series on business communication. Today we are going to study the formal reporting. I have already covered the informal reporting in my previous lecture. Now formal reporting is little bit lengthy, it's more legal and more documented. Let's study the definition. A proposal is persuasive document designed to motivate the reader to spend, make or save money. And to design this proposal, you have to report. And to make a report is a formal way of reporting, because formal reporting is an important part of organization, giving a legal shape and existence to the organization. Now formal reporting could be internal or external. It could be solicited or unsolicited. It could be formal in a way where it has to cover and go through various sections. Now when you design proposals, proposals could be like, basically they could be informal also. Informal proposals could be like you have to study the introduction, background, proposal, staffing, budgeting and authorization. This is a very small part of informal studying part of the proposals, because proposals are a kind of a movement or a kind of a basic happening in the organization which genuinely need a solution. When you do the introduction about the proposal, you basically have to search information, gather information, design the background and try to give an action or a strategy so that the solution comes to the problem. Now informal reporting basically genuinely is not so important for the organization, because when proposals do demand money, you have to be formal in shaping them. Formal reporting of proposals is like you want funds from some organizations or from the board of directors, or basically you want funds from the external agencies. So now when you are asking for money or for resources, you do have to design reports which are basically formal and basically make you a kind of a standing, or which give you a shape in the organization. Now formal proposals could include the basic aspects of the informal reportings also, and they have the additional parts also. First is letter of transmittal, abstract, executive summary, title page, table of contents, list of figures and appendix. We will study each in these details. Now what are the parts of the formal reporting? First is you have a kind of a title or a cover page. That is, after this cover page you have a letter of transmittal, then you basically have the other aspects of the reporting. But then let's study what could be the formal reports and such. How do you design them? How do you design the basic aspects related to the gathering of data, or what could be the analysis done it? After the cover page and the letter of transmittal, we will take up the other sections in detail, but basically I will just give you an analysis of the report which is important for the designing aspect. First is you have to research the secondary data. You also have to generate primary data, document the data, organize the data, illustrate the data and then present the final report. This is beautifully shown in this diagram. This is a circular diagram where all the steps have been designed in a beautiful way. Now researching the secondary data is important. How do you research? Secondary data could be studied from books, periodicals, bibliographic indexing sources which basically give you the author's name, place and the identification where the books are available. Then it could be the electronic databases. This is the collection of books, magazines, journals electronically. Like examples could be the Ebasco business source, or could be the Factiva or ABI sources. They are available on online sources and you could study them. Now when you use a website for collecting secondary data, what is the use of a website? Now website is important because it basically gives you the product data, the mission statements, the staff directories, the company news, the article reprints, the press releases and all kinds of information which is related to company could be available on the website. But when you study the blogs, it would give you the customers' views, opinions, etc. These are also important because basically you study the perceptions or the ideas of the customers. Now when you search the website, how do you go for search for secondary collection of information? The search is like you do have search machines like Google or Yahoo search, but when you try to put your data or your basic aspect or the word meaning in the Google searches, you basically type this word in form of a quotation or in a form of a question mark. Try to understand the sensitivity of the issue, try to use the nouns as much as possible so that you get the basically the material related those to the particular nouns instead of using is, the or prepositions. Try to save the best material available and keep trying, because search is a kind of ongoing and a lifelong process where you try to come out with the beautiful data and the material. Now, what is the primary data? Primary data is more difficult than searching the secondary data, because this is you have to get from the people who are directly into that particular kind of a expertise or a particular kind of a field. Now, this could be obtained through surveying, experimenting, observing and interviewing. This I have shown you again in the diagram, which is like given in 4 blocks. These are the blocks which genuinely give you the shape of the collection of these primary data. Now, generating primary data, like what is a survey? Survey is you take up a questionnaire and you try to collect the opinions and the feelings of the people through the designed questions. You go to the workplaces, you ask people, you try to observe people. This would be surveying. Then survey could be followed by an interview. What is interviewing? Interviewing is a kind of an expertise ability where you have to understand people's ethics, their values and the emotions. Ask questions according to their whims and fancies, because many times people don't give you answers which are very true. So, you have to be very true to people in order to give you the kind of the relevant information which you want. You have to prepare for the interview, try to maintain a kind of a professional attitude and prepare objective and a friendly kind of a interview pattern which would genuinely convince the audience to give their opinions and their facts related to a particular product or a subject. This should not be very lengthy, otherwise the audience would be bored and tired and he will not respond to you in a positive way. Now, gathering primary data could also be by observing. If you go to a particular organization, you would observe the happiness of the organization, their basic behavior of the organization, their attitude, their loyalty. This could be like quantifying the data according to your needs and sources where you require. Then it could also be experimenting. Experimenting is a kind of a collection of data which is basically used in science form of research, but in management also we do try to conduct experiments where you have experiment group and a control group. So, control group you basically don't change the factors affecting or impacting the working procedures, but with the experiment group you try to change the conditions so as to see the changes in the behavior and the motivations of the people. This could be designing a new incentive policy or could be designing a new environmental way of studying any kind of a policy decision. Now, when you try to collect this data, how to document it and what is a document? Documentation is like noting those ideas and perceptions and feelings which are not yours but of somebody else. So, they have to be quoted and cited in their words and in their basic shapes. Any facts, statistics, illustrations, figures which genuinely give meaning to your report, they have to be cited. Quotations of another person's or from another books or website should be used so as to enhance the value of your document. Basically, you have to paraphrase the another person's opinion in such a way that you could suggest a frame of mind which could be updated and researched. Now, organizing the report data, let's see. First, these steps are given in this diagram. See this diagram. There are 3 blocks. Again, you have a pattern, you have development and the use. When you design data or you try to organize the report or you organize the data, what is the basic aspect? First is the chronology. Chronology is arranging data in a sequence which shows the history of the events, like you start describing things from 1960s to 70s to 80s, comes to 90s and 2000. This is the way of sequencing the information from time base or decade base. Then geography is basically space wise. You try to organize information by region wise. Region is what is the African regions thinking about, or the northern region of India or the southern region of India. Then topic wise. Topic wise is, this is again arranging information according to the topics which are the most current issues, most valid issues. These are to be arranged in this way. Then you have to compare and contrast. Compare is like how you compare the present scenario with the past scenario, or how the present scenario could be compared with the future scenario. Then this could be also the journalism pattern. Now, journalism is like when you read newspapers, what is their pattern is they try to answer questions like who was there, what was the event, basically when this event took place, why it took place and where it took place. So, these are the basic questions which they try to organize in their form of information and try to organize data in form of a journalism way. Then could be the value size. Value could be like this is the most important aspect of your organization. This is higher value attached. So, the figures with higher kind of loading could be issued or addressed in the front aspects, and the less valuable aspects could be discussed afterward in a descending order. Then importance. Importance could be from most important to less important, or from simple to complex, from best cases to worst cases, or a conventional form of organizing the data is using a prescribed plan that all the readers do understand. So, this is how you organize data in the kind of formal reports. Now, levels of headings, which we have already discussed in informal reporting, but again I will tell you just how you have to design headings. Headings are important for any kind of reporting because basically it carries the value of the total report. It is a kind of a dressing, it is a kind of a statement which genuinely attracts the audiences. The conclusion should not be there in the heading, but a kind of a mystery and a kind of a fact should be related to the heading so that the audiences are appealed to read the document. And then the first level of heading should be centered and bold and underlined. Second level should start with the left margins, and third level heading should be indented. Now, why do you use visual aids in illustrating data in the reports? Illustrating reporting data through visuals is very important. This is to clarify the data, to summarize the important ideas, to emphasize facts and provide a kind of a focus on the particular issues. This is to add a kind of a visual interest. Now, most important visual aids which we are going to discuss, they are as follows. I will show you this visual aids in form of diagrams and their impacts on the reader's mind. The visual aids could be in form of tables, charts, photographs. Now, let us see this table. This table gives you the exact figures and the values associated with each variable. Here the emphasis year wise is increased. See this bar chart. This basically helps you in comparing the past with the future or the years with the medium years or the previous years. This is basically bars, diagrams are form of shapes in form of figures which basically give you an instant kind of conclusions. See these line charts, they demonstrate the changes in the quantitative data over a period of time. See this pie chart, it visualizes the whole concept and you get the proportions of the basic size of what you want to say. See this flow chart, it displays a process or a procedure of the organization. See this organization chart, what is it saying? It defines the hierarchy of the people and the elements in the organization. See these photographs, maps, illustration, they give authenticity, a spotlight and a kind of attraction to your report. They are important because what you do has to be validated by the visual aids. Now, the visual aids are important for the reporting because they basically try to evaluate the audiences, they basically try to attract the audiences. When you come for the visual aids, try to use a restraint, don't try to overdo things by coloring and designing. This would genuinely complicate and make reports more informal. So, when you are in a kind of a legal processes, the reports have to be designed in such a way that nothing is overdone. You have a kind of a protocol which has to be followed in time in a way where you depict facts and figures and the kind of conclusion strategies, whatever it is. Then you have to be accurate and ethical. Ethical is you don't have to indulge in plagiarism or misconduct or copying or generally violating the rights of the copyrights or other issues. Then try to introduce the graphs and the visual aids and try to choose an appropriate kind of caption and heading for each visual aid which you are depicting in the reporting. Now, let us study the parts of the reports. First is the prefatory parts. The prefatory parts are again divided into 5 aspects. These are as follows. First is you have a title page, then you have the letter of transmittal, table of content, list of figures and executive summary. Then parts of reports when basically depicted in a long way could be shown in this diagram which I have genuinely given you. This could be first is the cover page, title page, letter of transmittal, table of contents, list of figures, executive summary, introduction, body, conclusion, recommendation and appendix. When you come to the prefatory parts of the reports, see these parts of the formal reports. First is the title page. Now what is title page? Title page is important because it is an attractive aspect of the reporting cover. It has to be in a form of a way which genuinely appeals the audiences. Your name, your organization's name, the supervisor's name, and the kind of year and place and venue, everything is important. So try to jot down these things. What is letter of authorization? Now letter of authorization is basically that part of reporting where you have a kind of a legal kind of a certificate or a document from your supervisors or from your boss or from the organization or for any governing body which genuinely gives you authority to present that report. It is this certificate basically depicts the kind of the funding, the kind of the authority which you get from the organization. Now what is letter of transmittal? Letter of transmittal basically covers the preface of the organization, which basically depicts the kind of the industry background, the organization background, and the kind of your suggestions and opinions which you are generally going to put up into the total kind of the reporting aspect. Now what could be the table of contents? Table of contents is the kind of the index with each topic and number given. But when you take up the prefatory aspects, these are not used up into the table of contents, but their numbering is done in Roman numbers. These are few pages which are left without numbers and they are not taken into the table of content. So table of content starts with the introduction and goes to the bibliography and to the appendix level. Then is the executive summary. Now executive summary is the precise way or a condensed form of reporting which is 15% of the total documentation which you have done. See, like if you have 500 pages reporting, you may design a report of 50 pages kind of a summary which genuinely could be not taking the illustrations and the examples, but basically carrying the total reporting in such a way that you basically give the basic purpose, objective and the solution to the particular problem. Now body of report would basically cover the introduction. Introduction would include the contextual background. It is the context, the kind of the era, the kind of literature review, the kind of things happening in the organization. They are introduced to the viewers. Then discussions of findings. Findings is whatever data you have already collected, whether it is secondary data or primary data, this comes into the discussions, the analysis, like what is important for the organization today and how it will be relevant tomorrow, or what is the basic need, what is the statistical measure which you have taken up, or what is the tool, or what is the kind of the category of classification of data, whichever you have genuinely suggested. You apply to those findings and try to come out with a solution or a strategy. Now solution and strategy could be a proposed kind of a solution which the researcher, on the basis of the facts, findings, on the basis of the evaluation of the secondary information and on the basis of the perceptions of the people in the organization, would genuinely give to the government, to the organization or to the external agencies, that these could be the relevant issues or these could be the problems which could be addressed in this way. So these solutions are important because these are the solutions which would be incorporated into the society and they would give value to the society. Supplementary parts of the formal reports. Now this could be the footnotes and the endnotes. Now what are footnotes and endnotes? Like footnotes could be some difficult areas which generally the audience don't understand technically. So you have to explain these technical areas in the footnotes. And this could be the endnotes, in the basis you could give the citations also, or you could take these endnotes to the back part of the report where you could number it or follow a style of referencing which could be the APA style, or it could be the Vancouver or the Howard style of referencing. Then bibliography. Now bibliography is important aspect. This is the part or the sourcing aspect. What are the books you have consulted? What is the kind of the search machines you have used up? What is the secondary information which basically has come from the government reports or from the data which is already in the websites or it is uploaded from the other websites, whatever it is, generally you have to give a kind of a source which generally gives a shape to the report. This is bibliography. Now, appendix could be any kind of a document which is attached behind the reporting, because there could be lengthy solutions to the problems which are generally not depicted in between the reporting. So, you take to the end, like it could be the 5-year plan, it could be the government action plan, it could be some kind of law or a policy decision which has come up into the market. So, these are all basically genuinely put up at the back of the reporting aspect, which give a kind of a reference to the readers. If they don't understand the basic issues, you could go to the appendix and see what is the 5-year plan or what the government is saying. These were the basic aspects where we studied the right from the cover page to the last aspect of the report. We have covered in the formal aspect, where we have also learnt how to collect data, organize data, and then it is a kind of a evaluation process which the audience have to understand what is the reader's context is there. So, researcher has to understand those issues and genuinely organize the reporting in such a beautiful way that it appeals the audience, because you are going to the audiences so that they take up their solutions. Otherwise, the total exercise of putting up your effort goes waste. Now, how do you write a report? Now, let's see this diagram in which I have explained you the technical writing process. First block shows you the writing, then revising, editing, reviewing and publishing. Now, when you take the first step, writing roughly is important. Your ideas basically come from anywhere, whether it is your inner ideas, getting ideas from people, jotting it down, giving a rough shape becomes important. After giving a rough shape is you give a first revision, second revision, try to edit it and then come to the review process. Review could be like something which you take to the peers and then you give a publishing shape. Now, let's see the first process. What is writing aspect? You have to understand the audience. Who is your audience? Then understand the objective. What is your media? What are the resources available to you? What is the kind of abilities which you have? Because carrying up endless work would be an effort which you can carry all the years of your life, but you cannot invest so much time. So, you have a time limit, you have a money limit, and you have the kind of the limits which are genuinely have to be thought before you try to design the writing process. So, draw a kind of an outline and then try to prepare a template. Then go for revision. Now, revision would be like basically completing the total process of writing in such a way that it gives you a kind of a flow and a sequence to your total work which is you have put into the first template. This would be checking it for the language, the grammar, the spell checks, adding the graphics, designs, giving a format and a kind of a consistency to your writing work. This would be the revising work. Then come to the review. Now, what is review? See, it is a technical process. Now, you take this work to a peer. Peer could be a person who is working in the industry and he is an expert. The peer review will tell you what are the shortcomings, the limitations of your work, and then those the criticism which is coming has to be genuinely, it has to be eliminated. This could be the peers because peers are people who are technically sound, they are more learned than you, they have invested more years in the industry, so their comments are important. And when the papers or the reports are reviewed by the peers, you basically give a quality and you basically give a kind of a domain or shape to your report which could be carried to the public. Now, the tools which you design the report, by which you design the report are as follows. First is you have the Microsoft Outlook through which you design the email, you have the Word document, you have the Excel sheet which is the spreadsheet where you try to calculate the data and make the graphs. Then you have the PowerPoints by which you try to design the presentations, you have the Paintbrush by which you try to draw the drawings, and then you have the Microsoft font page by which the websites are designed, then you have the PDF formats and you have the Micromedia Flash formats also. The technical writing process is important because it genuinely has to be user friendly. User friendly is like the people who are reading should genuinely understand it. Your complexity of data has to be reduced to simple forms so that it is accepted and it is genuinely used by the public for whom you are writing. It has to be a kind of a step by step kind of an instruction procedure where the language and the style have to be congenial and in a friendly way. The references should be such that the audiences could refer it easily. Now, the shape to the reports could be in form of a modular way. Modular way is the usable form of the report where you genuinely form modules or design activities. The languages should be designed in such a way that they basically are sound in grammar and spell checks. The structured writing has to be kept into mind where you genuinely have the list of the tables, graphs or whatever it is. Now, when you come to the writing, report writing aspects, you have 3 steps, that is planning, structure and style. Now, planning is basically when you try to identify the audiences, the objectives and structure your ideas. Purpose will be like for why, what is the purpose you are writing the report, and then ideas could be like taking notes, doing research, performing or brainstorming of people's ideas so that you genuinely design innovative things in a better way. Then these are the all aspects, the planning, the structuring and the paraphrasing of report, which basically makes the report effective. An effective report is appropriate, accurate, logical and it is well organized. I hope the students must have understood the basic formats of the report, how the formal report could be designed, what are the basic issues related to report writing, how you can make the reports more emphatic by designing aspects or adding up charts and graphs. This is all which makes the documents more beautiful. This is the formal aspect of reporting which genuinely gives a legal and a valid shape to the organization. No organization in this world can survive without the formal form of reporting. This is the sound form of communication which basically shapes the organization. Thank you, students.